Hi, I'm Casey Bell, and you're watching Writer to Writer Interviews. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Writers to Writers Interviews. I'm Casey Bell, your host, and today's guest is financial expert Dr. Chonta T.A.Haynes. Let's take a listen at our interview. Okay, so tell me how you became interested in finances or how you got into that area of expertise.
Well, let's see. I've been teaching theology now for the last over 15 years. My original degree is in electrical engineering, both a bachelor's and a master's in electrical engineering. But when I started teaching finance, what I recognized was in many instances, people were not applying the theology or theory of what they learned. Similar in education. We go to school, we learn something, we get the information in class, but we don't actually apply it. So there's that disconnect. And so what I ended up doing as far as writing the different books were to actually help people put feet to their faith, is what I say. So they can actually walk it out. We know that, and I was going to say one from your book, you talk about we reap what we sow. You're absolutely right. But if you're not planting a seed, if you're not taking a step to do something, then you're going to fall flat on your face. When we look at our current economy and you look at the current pandemic, it was just a magnifier of the fact that we're not teaching financial education. We're not showing people how to adequately manage their money so that they will then have a better outcome. We end up depending on somebody else to do that. We end up depending on our family members to pick us up and, take that responsibility. Or we look to somebody else, we want to borrow the money, though we're not a good credit risk, those type of things. And so my goal was to try to change the economic footprint for many in the community, but specifically to say, hey, this is what you do based on what you know. So I've got to teach you that information up front and then show you how to actually apply it so that you walk it out and then you're in a better position. And then the goal is for you to then have that ripple effect that not only have you been impacted, but then you impact your family, your communities, and then the world gets impacted overall.
Cool. That's one of the things I noticed recently is that in school, well, I guess school is supposed to prepare you for college, and then college is supposed to prepare you for work. Mm-hmm. School algebra and geometry is required, but not everyone needs that at work. However, every business needs at least either or a bookkeeper or an accountant, but yet those are not required. And it's like the school system is failing in teaching us what we need because everyone needs an accountant on their, if you want a successful business, but they're not teaching, how to budget, how to, what to do with your money, but they are teaching algebra, which most people don't use. And
there are a lot of things. I'm a big math person. I told you engineering. I'm a big math person, and I noticed that there was, there's this mental block against the math side of which finances is going to fall in, that they're not teaching it where it's fun, where you see the practical applications of it. And I would go back with some of the students that I had an opportunity to help. I would tutor them, and I said, well, look, you like shopping, right? Well, you need to know percentages. And they think, oh, I didn't realize that, and it was those type of things. When you look at volume, you look at volume discounts, you look at being able to read labels at the supermarket to say, how much am I spending per ounce and which one is better for me? And I can do that comparison shopping. Mm-hmm. Those things are all in your algebra, even up to your calculus level, but it's not applied in everyday life that you're using what you've learned. And so that still kind of goes back to the same thing. We're teaching on a higher level, an overview, but not helping people connect the dots, if you would.
Right. Well, I doubt it'll happen, but I think it would be, because one of the problems I believe school has is when they label people with ADHD because they can't sit still. And I'm like, but in real life, no one sits still. And so even as you were saying, one of the things I believe they should do is after you teach something, find a way to create like the classroom, what do you call it? Supermarket. And so, to teach them how to shop, and not just shopping. I hear a lot of people complain, oh, I went to the store and I gave them this and they couldn't figure out the change on their own. And I'm like, because they never had to. And so I said, so do that. Create an atmosphere where they actually have to be behind a fake counter and the calculator's not there, you know, whatever the case may be, you got to figure it out. And I believe if there was time in the classroom to sit down and teach and then to get up and use what you've just learned, we would keep it absorbed more, because that's everything we do before we go to school, from walking to getting dressed to brushing our teeth, is because we did it every day. And so we're able to.
Interest too. And one of the things when I connect with my students, I don't like labels. And I heard you say that. I don't like labels. It's not fair. You have to be able to connect with each individual student and say, based on this, based on how you see life and based on what you like in life. The ADHD saying their attention deficit disorder, there's not an attention deficit. You didn't find something that interested me for me to be able to focus on. You know, and so, and I know we're completely off talking about books right now, but it's good to know that that's where they're coming from, you know, and once you figure that out, then you can capture their attention. Well, let me say this. The name of my company is Heart to Heart Truth Ministries. I believe that true learning is not head to head, but it's heart to heart. Right. And that's similar to what we're talking about. It's not that I'm just giving you book information. I am getting down to the base of who you are so that we connect. Because as long as you know how much I care, then you're going to want to know what I know and you're going to listen to me. But outside of that, you know, it doesn't work. And I won't help you get to that next level. And my goal, my passion is to help you get to that next level in whatever I do. And so however I put it together for you, and there are different types of people. And as we talk about the books, I know when I gave it to you, I have 3 different books all under finance right now. And I've got another one that's coming out. They're done at different levels. I started off with Financial Wisdom for Financial Freedom. Now that one's a workbook. Let's see. I made sure I put it here. This is the workbook. It's for your do-it-yourself people. It's the, you know, the type that says, I can work through it on my own. Well, everybody can't do that. It does give you scriptural references that go along with it, but it gives you the practical application that was missing to say, this is how you do debt reduction. This is a website that you can go to for looking at your credit. These are the things that they're going to be considering. So this is what you need to do. Here are the alliances you need to have with your bank. These are some of the things that you need to take out or make sure you're paying attention to, because it's eating away at the funds that you do have. But then there's those who want more of the theology and theory behind it. And so we use not just paper in the classroom for biblical finance, and it goes through from Genesis to Revelation, but it also gives you a Bible study to say, let me think about this. Let me internalize so that I could walk it out. Now, in the Financial Wisdom for Financial Freedom, that workbook, it also has a Bible study, which most will not do. You know, because it's saying internalize what you just learned so that when you take it to heart, you say, okay, I do this because I go through mindset as well. I do this because of that. I do this because my family history has been one of poverty. So I have a poverty mindset. I don't believe I'm going to make it, but that's not what the word says about me. So I need to change my mindset. I need to renew my mind. When I renew my mind, I start handling money differently. And then the recent one that I did was in July, and that's Divinely Connected, Steps to Fearless Financial Freedom. And it's a devotional planner, 52-week devotional planner. It's done in bite-sized pieces. So what I do is I mix the 2 of them together, but it's not the full do-it-yourself. You are going to do it yourself, but little chunks at a time over the year, as opposed to somebody who could sit down and just walk right through it. Right. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's kind of how I packaged it together. And one of my bigger one of the things that I've been doing lately on a lot of the digital stages, especially with the Corona cooties, like I call them, like I said, it does magnify, but we each have a personality. And I look at biblical financial personalities, taking into account my engineering background with the systematic approach and the problem solving. marrying it also with the scripture of this is how you operate if you are, for instance, I have steam personality, you have a water personality, fire, and ice. So that's why the engineering comes in. But in the STEAM personality is the type of person who likes to, the acronym stands for spend, thinking emotionally about memories. So they're constantly giving. Well, we're supposed to be givers. You know, you're not, everything is not about you. You reap what you sow. Okay, but if you don't have a budget in place, you're overspending and you don't know why you're overspending. So then it takes you to the biblical reference. One of them happens to be with the Good Samaritan. But he also went and took care of his business as well. He said, innkeeper, I'm going to give you this. I'll come back and finish. So I can do for others, but I have to make sure I take care of the things that I need to take care of first. Don't let my bills go lacking. Don't let me get a late payment because I'm helping you pay off your bill when you didn't do what you were supposed to do. All right, makes sense. So that's kind of how those things are put together. So I think, Casey, you probably have a better understanding of me now than most people of why I do what I do. But I do have a passion to assist in that area and many others. But finance is a big one that we're seeing right now.
Okay, so name, well, in your own experience, the top three, what's the word? I'll say ignorances that people have about finances that they don't realize is causing them to be poor, causing them to continue to be in debt, causing them to keep going around the same problems of having financial problems.
One of the big ones is the way they handle money. They think that everything that glitters is gold and they need to go get it quick, fast, and in a hurry. So there's that initial problem of deciding between what's a need and what's a luxury. We think everybody's supposed to have all of this. You know, that's one of the big problems, that need versus luxury. The second one I would say would be more on the side of debt management. Why did I get into debt? Not recognizing that the credit card companies, it's a $1 billion industry. Mm-hmm. That's why you can constantly get in the mail new credit card applications, because they want you to not pay it off. There are also some sabotagers that are out there that keep you in debt because you don't recognize the game is set up against you. The world, the government, all businesses want to take your money. It's not what you make, it's what you keep that's important. And so you're constantly spending and buying and thinking that 90 days same as cash sounds great. But if you don't have it on day one, I tell you, don't buy it. You know, figure out how much you need to pay every single month until it's paid off in those 90 days, which is only 3 months. Because on day 89, if you can't pay it, all the interest from day one goes back on. And it's typically at about 33% interest.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of those that are out there of the systematic issues that are there that are going against you. And then thirdly, I would say on the credit side, we don't recognize the importance of having good credit and how you can get good credit. You know, the credit score simply says this is an indication of how well you will be able to pay back funds. So if you're in a good position that you typically pay all your bills on time, you don't have any late payments, you're not overutilizing what you do have access to, then you're going to have a lower score. Well, that lower score then is equivalent to you being able to buy more at less, you know, for a lesser cost, because your interest rate is low because of that credit score. And so we don't balance those things. We don't know the systems. We don't know how money works.
One of the things I would definitely encourage parents, because I remember, I can't remember, I think it was my first year in college. I was leaving a classroom and this guy comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, would you like to get a credit card? You don't need, you know, parents, yada, yada." And I already knew about credit cards because my parents talked to me about it. So I said no. And my first thought was, why are they on a college campus?
Yep.
Even though they're legal, mentally, technically, they're not. And I thought that that was very just wrong, that's what goes on. And I understand because these are college students, try to make money. They get a percentage, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was wrong that colleges would even allow that on their campus, knowing most of them are already in debt because they're here on a loan. Why are you now allowing someone with a credit card to put someone further into debt? And so a book I wrote on college, I said, one of the things you need to do is run away from those credit card sharks and do not accept it, because it seems, when they put all that good stuff that sounds right, by the time you get to the small print of all the entrants and all of the rules and regulations and all the things that's going to happen to you if you don't pay on time, that's the stuff they don't tell you. And by the time you find out, now you're in trouble and you don't know what to do. And I think it's real sad that colleges, and I know we live in a free country, et cetera, but I still think it's wrong that colleges allow that on campus.
Well, some people think that it's a rite of passage at the age of 18 that you can get a credit card. Okay, you can. If it's one that does not have an annual fee, excellent. It starts building your credit because you got credit history, as long as you're not using it or you are using it wisely. So if you charge something, you have the money already ahead of time and you pay it off at the end of the month, no problem. I don't have a problem with that. But most of the college students, even adults, don't do that. Right. So they don't know how to use credit appropriately. There's another one, and now we got big into the debit cards. I'm going to tell you honestly, I am a credit card person over a debit card. Why? Because you're not balancing your checkbook.
Yeah, most people don't.
You're not balancing and figuring out, oh, I've got this one that's coming out, and you end up in trouble because you're now going to be paying. Whereas with a credit card, with 0 annual percentage interest, fee, you can look at those charges beforehand and dispute whatever is there before it goes through, especially with all the fraud today. They got your debit card, it's out of your account immediately. You're fighting with the bank to try to get it back. Right. Whereas with the credit card, you haven't paid it yet. So those are some of the differences. And what I try to do is teach you how to make good financial decisions.
That's good. I like I never thought about the difference between, I always thought a debit card was better than a credit, but I never thought of that as far as when it gets stolen and all that, things like that. And I know for a fact, actually, credit cards, they'll contact you immediately because I know, well, it was pretty funny. Because,
it depends on the dollar amount because you can set
yeah, actually, yeah. But I thought it was funny because one of the jobs I worked, well, 2 of the jobs I worked at, I'll say a year after the whole chip thing came out on the credit card and it was supposed to be more safer, more this, more that, we kept getting customers saying, oh, I got to change my credit card. It's been hacked. And we're like, but the chips are supposed to be every customer. I got the new chip card and it still got hacked. And it was just like, how? It's supposed to be.
Well, we've got criminals today that are preying on others and what they have. And they are getting smarter and smarter. So even though the technology comes out, they're already ahead of the game in how to hack into that new technology. It's very disheartening because to me, if you have that much creativity and ingenuity, just do it for right. Do it for good.
Exactly.
Start a company. But
I've always said
try to take from somebody else. Right.
I always say, if you got so much time to go after the elderly, so much time to build all this, just either get a real job or start a business because it's the same time you're spending the same money. There's no difference. The only difference is you end up in prison when you do it that way. So yeah. I find it odd that people think it's easier to scam people than just to start a business.
And it's a big issue today. I don't like that either. My mother is in her 80s and, the constant emails and the phone calls. Oh, this is the IRS calling you. I had one of the seniors here locally that I was working with. They scammed her with the IRS. Oh, they got your social security number and blah, blah, blah. We need you to go to your bank, take out $2,000, go to GameStop or somewhere like that to put it on a card. And I'm like, why didn't you call? They stay on the phone with you. Oh, and they pretend like they're watching you. And I'm going, oh, the red flag should have been going up. And she's trying to slip a note to the lady at the bank saying, do you think this is a scam? And when you ask the question in the wrong way, you're not getting the answer. The lady was like, yes. And she was like, guess this seems like it's good. And that was not the question.
Oh, yeah.
So you lost $2,000. I mean, you don't do that to people. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fair. But if we're wise with our funds, We know what we have to spend. We know what we can do, and we would not do some of those things as well that the scam artists are doing. Oh, your friend is over in this particular city and they need you to send them or wire them money. Okay, guess what? I can pick up the phone, call them. What do you mean you're out of the country? I didn't know you were going. Oh, I'm not. Okay, well then I know it's a scam.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
those type of things. You don't, if you're not as free with your funds. Now, one of the things that I found with some of my customers that bought the workbook is there's a friend of mine. We call it March Madness. It seems like in the month of March, everybody comes out of the woodwork wanting to borrow money. And their promise is that when the taxes come back in April, they're going to be able to pay you back, but they never do. And they come up with these wild stories, okay? I mean, I'm just being very real with you. They come up with, you know, out of the blue stories. So what she did was she bought 10 of my workbooks. And so when people ask her to borrow money, you have every right to say, what do you need it for? And yes, I want to help you, but now I'm going to help you to be able to be financially fit going forward so that you don't come back to me. And so it kind of puts a stopgap measure in place to say, I'm not going to be that one anymore. I helped you this time because it was in my budget, but outside of that, I'm done.
Right.
You know, because they can't say they never got the book and they never got the information.
Right. Well, something I do personally,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell people, if someone asks you for money, it's either, if you have it and you don't need it back, give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need it back, simply say no, because 9.9 times out of 10, you're not getting it back.
You're not.
It's not. So if they were, how do I say, wise financially enough to give it back to you, they wouldn't be asking for it in the first place.
They could be in a critical position, but then what I say, with just like I was saying, that STEAM personality, the one that likes to lend, they would have a larger budget item for gift giving and things of that sort. But I tell them you have to balance logic with emotion. Yeah. So if I only have $100 a month to be able to give away and I'm down to 50 and you're asking for 75, right, I can tell you all I can do is 50 at this time. You're going to have to check me next month because it's not within my budget. And so what I try to do is, in that biblical financial personalities, is help them see that I can remove the struggle from money management because I know how I operate with money. And if I work within that, then I am not going to be out of whack. I'm not going to be having sleepless nights because I gave to you. I also say this way, grown folks are going to do what grown folks want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, buying hair for $200 at a pop, or buying the latest Jordans that come out just because you got stimulus money. Well, right, guess what? Use that more appropriately to, one, get your financial education so you know how to operate with money. Two, get your budget in line so you know what you have coming in and what you have going out. And I tell people to be automatic savers as well. You have to pay the government, yes. I say you return your tithe, but you also pay yourself. So you operate then on 80% of what comes in. You become an automatic millionaire without breaking a sweat. And it doesn't matter whether you have a job that's making $100,000 a year or one that's on minimum wage. If you start paying yourself first in all of those things, paying God first and paying yourself second, and then make sure that your bills are managed within that 80%, you're going to be good. The shiny objects are going to go away.
Yeah.
Look, here's another one that I like to tell my clients as well, is they'll say, if you look at it, 73% of Americans are dying in poverty. That's a significant portion. If 50% of Americans say that they're Christians, then mathematically, minimally 23% of Christians are dying in poverty. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Right. No. But you also look at the stats on savings account. Most Americans, I want to say in the 80%, 90% range, don't even have $1,000 in savings. Right. If an emergency comes up, what are you going to do? If you lose your job, what are you going to do? When you get ready to retire, how can you? So I tell them up front, one key thing that they can take away, is look around your house for things that you are not using, that you bought, because it was that shiny object, and sell it. You end up making $1,000, put it in the bank, start your emergency fund, and then start that fund, because I tell people to have 6 to 9 months worth of savings, gross savings. That way, you're not pandemic. Could you have made it in the 6 to 9 months? No problem.
Right.
Yes, you still cut back, but at the same time, you don't have sleepless nights because you're like, oh, what are we going to do? We've been doing this since March, So
one of the things I wanted to say, because I've heard many times you need to tithe, you need to pay yourself, you need to set aside for retirement, you need to set aside. One thing I've never heard anyone say, this is the first time I'm hearing it from you, is to set aside money for lending and have that budget and let people know this is what I have this month and this is all I can give you and nothing more. And that's not something I've ever heard anyone say. So I wanted to thank you for that, because I think people need to hear that yes, you may feel heartbroken that this person needs money, but you shouldn't make sure you're kicked out of your house because, of someone else, And so with that said, for those who feel like they can never, start, can you give us just 3 easy tips people can do to get their finances on the road to recovery?
First thing is going to be budget. You need to know how to budget. And it's a living document. A lot of people are afraid of the word budget because they think it's going to be tedious and hard. You don't have to do the spreadsheet. You can do the apps. They've got plenty of apps out there. I just say don't pay for an app. If you can, don't pay the extra. But it's really a system of saying what's coming in and what's going out. You have to know what you have. And then you have to know the systems that are out there that are working against you so that you can then rein it in and make better financial decisions. Cut out what you're not doing, reevaluate what you do have, because you need to get to a zero balance budget. In other words, you have allocated everything that's coming in to be in some bucket. I tell them very easily, give some, save some, spend some. So the giving is what you're returning your tithe, or if you're buying gifts, those type of things are in that bucket. Then you've got the savings bucket. That's for you immediately, emergency fund, as well as your income, so that you're feeling secure about that, but also for retirement. And then you have the part that you're spending, which is your everyday, your variable, you're going on vacation. You need to, do that, put that together. Secondly, have a goal in mind. Up front, know what you're planning for. If your goal is to get out of debt, then you're going to put most of your extra, anything over, into debt reduction. And there's an app that I always send, not an app, website that I'll send people to for debt reduction. Know the debt snowball method, the debt avalanche method. I explain all of that too, but this was a way for them to be able to type in what they do owe, and then it'll come up with an analysis telling them how much or how long it's going to take them to get out of debt. But in order to put that dollar amount in, you got to have a budget to know how much you can pay. Right. So those are 2 big things. Now, the third one that I would say would be starting that emergency fund, doing what I just said, going through your house, making sure that you sell the things that you don't need, just to be able to start with a fund and feel like you're starting from somewhere other than, oh, I can only save $2 this month. Another thing that I do on setting you up for that is I give you the 52-week challenge. Now, a lot of people will have the 52-week savings challenge out there. Very easy to do. It's 52 weeks in the year. Week 1, you're supposed to save $1. Week 2, you save $2, and so on down to 52. But you end up saving almost $1,400 in the year. Very easy, right? Well, I tell them, you know what? That sounds good, but guess what happens at the end of the year? What happens, Casey?
Try to use that money.
Well, they could, but what else occurs at the end of the year? Christmas. And what do? They start spending it, and they can't save it.
They don't realize they shouldn't.
They don't plan ahead for it, and so it makes it more difficult. Say week 50, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to save $50. I can't save $50 because I'm spending it. Yeah. So I tell them to reverse it. Start with $52 January 1 because you're all gung ho. right?
Okay.
That's one way to do it. And then you end up only having to save $2, $3 at the end of the year. And because of compounded interest, now you've made more money
Right.
throughout
In
that
the beginning
year.
of, yes, wow. Never.
Now, also in my book, I do a bingo to make it fun for kids and fun for adults as well. So it's not just that straight number. You save your maximum and you start checking them off. So when you do that as early as possible, one, you're getting your math in, because if you got $40, but you checked off number 40 already, you can do 39 and 1, 35 and 5, those type of things. So all that math is still coming back in, but you're saving more at the top side of it than at the bottom. If you then end up have saved all of it throughout the year earlier on, you can start it a second time and then you make it a game. So savings then becomes automatic and fun. And
Right.
that to me then puts us in a better light, because now we're not dependent upon somebody else to pay when we get ready to, when we pass away. They got to pay off bills or they got to bury us,
Right.
and they don't have the funds. Oh, well, I've already saved this money. I don't cover the insurance side of it, but I do cover the fact that I go through the rule of 72 when I do my online course. The rule of 72, talking about how long it's going to take you to double your money. In a bank account, you're not going to make that much.
Right.
But when you start doing the investments, then you see that you're getting higher interest. That's where you're going to then create wealth. And it's all about moving to creating wealth and leaving a legacy so that our children's children have something to start with and are not always starting from ground zero like most of us have.
Right. So you just mentioned investment. Is there information on investment in the book?
I try to stay away from the investment side of it, other than telling you the differences. I
Okay.
suggest that you do the 401k for sure, especially if you have a company
Well,
that is
no, don't say anything. If you have something in the book, they can just get the book and read it. I just wanted to make
yeah.
sure.
No, but I'm saying, now let me say this. I kind of stay away from giving you specifics on what to do other
Right.
than some of the generals, because I don't want to get in trouble with the SEC. I
Right.
am not, a financial advisor. I tell people I'm a financial coach and I'm a money management expert. However, I stay away from that because I don't sell you any products. And I think in some instances, it would be a conflict of interest because I would be trying to steer you to products that are going to benefit me. I want to be able to be that neutral person to say, this is what's best for you, or this is how you make the decision. Now, the next one that I want to move forward in is on the retirement side, when you're looking at Social Security and how you deal with your retirement. Because in that FIRE personality, which stands for financially independent retiring early, that
Wow.
person is going to make sure that they have all of their retirement plans. They know how much they need. That's a simple calculation. They know how much they need for retirement, but in that, they're planning to only spend the interest that they make, not the principal. That way you leave a legacy and you're really building wealth.
Okay. That's
That's coming
like
out of
that.
biblical financial personality. So that one will be in that.
That's good. So off the topic, give some advice or give your journey of publishing, because I know when you hear the word book, people immediately think you need a English degree and you need a doctorate and all this kind of stuff. But if you've been through something and you've learned your lesson and you don't want anyone else to go through it, that's a book. And
Mhm.
so, did you know anything about publishing when you started? Or how did your journey of publishing?
I did not know anything about publishing when I started. The first book that I did was Family Worship, Reaching All Who Attend, which is one that I did. It's on the back wall there too. I did through Ex Libris. I went through a company, and they typically are going to charge you anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 to publish a book. And most people think that the notoriety of, oh, I'm an author now, people are automatically going to buy your book. You don't have to do any marketing. If you did the work to write it up, it's done.
Mhm.
Okay. That's not the case.
Right.
I found out that book publishers in many instances don't know how to sell books. They're banking on you and your platform that you're selling the book for them. I did not also like the percentages in what we get. It reminded me of back in the day when we would have the singers, the artists, and you had the managers taking all the money and the companies, the studios taking all the money, and they would get very little royalty. And it was their intellectual property, if you would, just like ours, that's actually garnering them the money, the funds. That to me was not fair.
They still do that today.
Exactly. And that's what I found out. So when I started, and they keep calling me every day, hey, do you want to publish with us? And I'm like, what are the benefits? I have not figured out mathematically the benefit of going through a traditional publisher. You know, it is not, the numbers are not coming out. Whereas if I did my own self-publishing, I have my own editor, you know, I go to them, make sure, you know, spell check and all of that works wonders these days. We probably didn't have it in the past. But you can format it, you know, because I have the technology background too, it makes it easier for me. I can format, I can get it right. I've learned about going through Fiverr. I don't know if you've done that.
Yes.
As far as getting a book cover, you know, working with somebody. You have some pros and cons with that. Yes, you get what you pay for, but you'll figure out some of the ones you can. And then there's some other companies that are out there that will do an excellent job, if you would, at the same level, if not a higher level than what you would get through some of these self-publishing companies as well. So you get that together, but the marketing is still on you. I have found a local printer that I can get it printed from, or I can send it through Ingram Spark and still get, you know, the percentage discounts, or do that. I do it through Amazon as well. So I have it available, but the initial outlay is nowhere close to what you would be paying. I did my own copywriting in all of them. I bought my own ISBNs, and I bought a bank of ISBN numbers. And so you can do it yourself. And then most of what the publisher would get, that percentage you get. It's still kind of disheartening when you have to give a bookstore 40 to 55% discount in order for them to carry your book,
Right.
because that's cutting you in half. However, you recognize that they would have the brick and mortar. People would be able to come in and purchase it. They would be able to offer discounts on your book from that standpoint. So you understand why they want that discount, but you also have to realize that there is a system in pricing your books. You know, you price it so that you will be able to get a little bit more,
Right.
that kind of thing. So it was a significant learning experience going through the self-publishing, but I recognize I'm more in control. I get more. Even with Amazon, you're giving away, what, 35, 40%. You end up as an author getting about 18% through Ingram Spark. You get about 15% or so through Amazon. Now, when you look at the ebooks, which is another one that they came up with, it works pretty good because you don't have to have a physical piece of paper or anything. But in many instances, we discount it when the value is still there. You know, and so trying to figure that one out, because you're getting the same information, it's just coming through a different delivery system. So what you really should only be backing off ultimately is the printing cost. But if you look at it, I've done it too. My books are still like that as well. Like one is $11.99, the workbook is $11.99, but I believe on the ebook side it's $5.99. Well, was that the cost of the printing,
Right.
or should I bring it up? So it's those type of things. But the author is really in control. The sad part is it's my intellectual property. Like you said, it's either my story, the information that I have garnered and been able to put together to help somebody else. It's my intellectual property, but everybody else is benefiting off of it. They're getting pieces of the pie before I get the piece of the pie. And ultimately, that's not fair.
Right.
So I'm still trying to figure that one out. Have you figured out a better way?
Not yet. But I find it, every author I've spoken to so far has the same story on publishing. I find it funny because even when you said the publishing company doesn't market as much, early on when I first started publishing books, I said, I'm just going to hire a PR person and
Mm-hmm.
have them do everything for me. And so I contacted them, and their response was, give us a list of things you plan on doing to help market the book. And I was like, hire you? That's what that was my plan. I was going to hire you to do it. And they were actually expecting me to help them. And I'm like, so then why am I paying? The money I'm paying you, I could just do it myself. And so I think I don't understand why they have these professional PR and advertising marketers if I'm supposed to be doing it too. It's like paying someone to do your lawn and you go out there and do it with them. It's like, right. That doesn't make sense.
Well, you as the author are the hot commodity. If you're on digital stages, for instance, and you tell them as the PR person that you're on this, they sometimes like suggest some other ones that you would be able to get on. They might have connections with them, but that's basically what they're doing. You still have to, and that's the thing, is when I did the first one that I did with Ex Libris, I paid them the $2,000, do the book. I still did my own copyright, but they have the ISBN, so they control everything. I can always get it back, but at the same time, I'm like, nobody's buying it other than the ones that I sold. So what's going on with this? And then they sold me another package for $700 for marketing. I got no reports. I don't know where it went. I just know I gave them another $700. So that was my problem. I said, it doesn't make sense for me to pay for something that you cannot give me any stats on and tell me what happened and how it has improved. So I'm not going to go that route anymore. And I had to recognize that I had to do the marketing. I had to be willing to pick up the phone and call or put it on websites or do the social media. And, it's a hard road to get to that publicity. But once you get there, then everything else that you have done starts picking up. So we as authors, I think that somebody came out and I just printed it. I haven't looked at it, but it's a 21-day book marketing challenge. And it's got a list of items to do. Those things are good, but get in the habit of every week, like we're talking now. This is an excellent opportunity. And I applaud you for coming up with this, saying, hey, get on a Zoom with me and let's talk about your book. You can use it. You can interview me on my book and I can use it. I can put it on YouTube. I can put it on social media. I am now repackaging my information in a multitude of areas, taking me less time to actually get it done. So if I do at least one of those kind of partnerships or something every week, and then I do another reach out, and I've got my emails that are going out, because I got a website that I can constantly tell people about the new things that I've got coming on, then I'm marketing. Now, can it be done better? Yes, it can be done better. When you get to a point and you say, okay, my email marketing and those e-blasts and stuff, my copywriting is not the best, because author is typically not a copywriter either. Because, okay, hire somebody to do that if that's not your expertise, and you use it as a business. I've also heard that a book is really not a business for you. It's a business card.
Yes.
It's an entryway. So then now the thing is, you got to have an online course to go along with. Okay, yes, you can market and say, I'm taking this one thing that really is taking off, and how else can I repackage it? How can I format it? How can I tweak it so that now it meets all these other areas? So just like you said to me, high school, they're not doing it. I'm starting to reach out to home educators as well, because yes, I wrote it for college level, at the seminary, those type of things, but a high school student who is getting ready to graduate can benefit, and it's written at their level. Now, would I do middle school? Not for what I currently have, but I can repurpose it, rearrange it, change the terminology, give more examples, for that level and then go down to elementary. So eventually I can make it a full business working all the way up. So that's why I have the online class now that goes with the financial wisdom for financial freedom. I call it Financialopoly. And most people can't even say it, but it sounds like Monopoly. But I did that because everybody is not an auditory processor. Everybody is not a visual learner. You know, everybody's not kinesthetic. You have to know how people learn. Right. So with an online class, I can bring not only the visual that they're getting in the book, but now they have the auditory, they can hear me. They print out the documents, they download it, they actually work on it. That's the kinesthetic. So if you then take the totality of a person, meeting every single aspect of how they learn best, now you move forward. So you can do the same thing with your books as well. Okay, I've got the book, now I've given you the information. Let me now take it to a class level. And the class level says, I'm going to give you some activities that you need to go through in order that you can then work through my book and get more out of it than just I read the book and I put it to the side.
Right. Well, you kind of just answered my last question I had for you. Do you offer, obviously it's going to be online now, but before the pandemic and after the pandemic, do you offer seminars, workshops, classes, etc.?
I do. I do have an online class, but I also have what I call a Wisdom Wealth Workshop that I had planned to do in person. It's a 4-hour intensive workshop. It goes through everything in 4 hours, but on a group level. And then I had to switch it to virtual. So I have it still available virtual. But then I also personally do financial counseling for the individual. I either do it by the hour or I do it an intense, which is more like 6 hours to go through all of yours. I did that with one individual prior to us starting this big pandemic, like right at the beginning in March. And she claimed she was a mad happy customer when it was all over. But I got a chance to get to the mindset issue. You know, she wanted to do this because if you don't know your why, then it's going to be so easy for you to give up. And so we started there. She was the water personality, which stands for why attend to every report. She didn't know where anything was, nothing. It was just, you know, happenstance, no budget, no nothing. And we put it together and I had to let her know she was on a fixed income. She was like, oh, I'm always going to be in debt. That's another mindset shift that has to change. You don't have to always be in debt. Who told you that? Right. You know? And so when we got through that and I said, do you realize you're in the best position in the midst of a pandemic? The people who are better off are those that are on a fixed income. Their income's not changing. You can manage within that. And she was like, wow. And then when we put the budget together, we figured out how much she could spend. She had fun in it. She was giving, she was saving, all of that. But at the same time, I found she had overpaid the electricity company. They were sending her $700 back because she wasn't paying attention. You know, she was, oh, I'm just sending them certain dollar amount. She had a legal bill that was out there. We put it in her bank, you know, when they do bill pay. That way she had a record of when she was paying them. She knew when she was going to pay that off. She's paying off her condo because once that is paid off, that money is now going to be rolled over into the condo to pay off that mortgage a lot sooner. And so that snowball keeps working. Her student loans will be paid off. She'll be out of debt in 6 years. And she was like, wow, I can't believe this. But sometimes it takes me doing it personally with the individual. Some people can handle a group, ask their questions appropriately and get it done. Some people can work on their own, doing the online class and just working through it. So everybody is different. You have to know what's best for you to make sure that that does happen. But I do offer them and I love working with people. I love seeing their smiling faces when they're out. I put the testimonies on my website as well to let, you know, others know like this is available. Right now, what I really like to do, and I didn't tell you this, my goal for 2020 was to impact 2,020 lives in 2020. I had the best marketing plan laid out, you know, January 1, I had the whole year, how many Wisdom Wealth workshops I was doing. I was finding my ideal customers by going to certain events. And of course, all of that went away.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I know I've got a great product. I know it's going to impact people. How can I do this now differently? So for the most part, I've been on these digital stages. I've been able to share the information. And I think when I checked, I need to redo my figures. But in July, I was up to 1,500, which is not bad, getting very close to my goal, and I'm like, wow, even in the midst of a pandemic. So if you don't have a goal, how they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You have to have a goal in mind of what you're trying to achieve. So we have to continue to do that. And I bake that in as well. But yes, I have it available in hard copy if they want the books, in classes, they want the classes, whether it be in person or online, all of those are available. And I'm constantly making sure that they're experienced products, if you would, because a lot of people will start an online class but never finish. I want them to be able to go through. So I make it interesting. One of my students said, and he calls me a firecracker personality, because I get passionate about what I do. It shows through the work that I do, because my heart is that I care about each individual and their family. Because if I can teach you how to fish instead of giving you a fish sandwich, that's going to be better, not only for you, but everybody around you.
Right.
So.
Well, when you go counting again, you can add me to that list.
All right. I definitely will.
I definitely like the one of the ideas that I never thought of doing the 52-week challenge backwards. I really thought that was innovative.
Well, thank you. See, I come up with these things. That's why I said I'm a problem solver. The engineer in me says, figure out how it's going to work best. So you have an option, but you're right. The 52-week challenge that's out there, nobody ever thinks about flipping it and the advantages of flipping it.
Right.
Hey, are you a writer, a songwriter, a playwright, screenwriter, author? You write articles, poetry. If you're a writer, I want to sit down and talk with you. Go to my website, authorkcbell.com, and click on Writer to Writer interviews for more information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this message.
God wants you to prosper, not somebody else, not someone down the street, but He wants you to prosper. He promises to be our exceeding great reward. God has a great plan for you. 3 John, verse 2, it says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers." Heart Truth Ministries. You can find us online at htruth.org. At Heart to Heart Truth Ministries, we're helping believers live an abundant life based on God's Word, standing on His promises, walking out His principles, sharing with God's people, serving as unto the Lord.
And we are back. Let's get back into the conversation.
And I'm excited. One of the things that I'm going to start off with this. One of the things that I really like is that you are creative and you're innovative. You come up with different things to do, even at, I'm going to say, a young age, because I don't know how old you are, but it seems to me that you have done a lot in this publishing side in just a short time. So can you tell me a little bit about you and your journey in publishing?
Sure. Well, it wasn't short. It started actually out in 2003. I was watching a film, Lifetime movie, and I just said to myself, I think it would be better if it went this way. And I guess you can say it was Holy Spirit who said, well, then write it. And my first initiative response was, well, I can't, because I didn't do well in English class. I didn't do well in writing, reading, none of that. And so my mindset was, I can't, because I don't do that well. And then I heard said, do it by faith. And so I started writing it. Now, this book didn't actually get finished until 2015 because of writer block. However, in 2006, 2007, for whatever reason, I guess Holy Spirit brought it to my attention. I started thinking about all the things that happened to the students in my high school, like major things, as far as we had a bomb threat. A substitute got arrested. He was caught in a hotel room with one of the students. A whole bunch of just crazy things. And the one thing I noticed is I never actually spoke to my parents about it. It happened, we gossiped about it in school, and then that was it. And I just thought to myself, I guess I was too young to really pay attention to what was going on. One of my classmates had to leave school for a year because her parents put her into rehab because she was anorexic, and she got to the point of where you could see. Mm-hmm. So I said, I should probably write a book about this. And so that was the first book I published. Before I published it, I said, I don't know how it's going to get published because no company is going to want to publish this. I know that. And someone from the church, we were trying to find ways of fundraising. And so someone from the church brought in someone who has published her own book. So we had a self-publishing workshop. And that was the beginning of my journey. So I took the class, I took every bit of notes, and then literally by faith, I was scared, but I said, I'm gonna figure this out. And so I published my first book. I was very excited, very happy. And it's been very eye-opening because like I said, I just assume you publish a book, everyone's gonna buy it. And I didn't understand the process. Well, first of all, I went to the library, had to get a bunch of books. I didn't know the difference between PR, advertising, and marketing. I thought they were all the same thing. One person did it. And I didn't realize they were really three different entities and then each entity had its own separate sections. There's different types of advertising, which one works best, and different types of marketing. I didn't understand any of it. So this publishing process, mostly I've been learning on the PR, advertising, and marketing, which is funny because you would think writing a book, you would be more concerned about writing and editing and, grammar, content, layout, and all that. But most of my research has been on how do I get this book in people's hands. Okay. And it's been fun, I can say, learning how to do this. But yeah, that's been my publishing process.
So now let me ask you this. You said you started in 2003. You wrote your first book in 2003?
That's when I started writing, but I didn't actually publish my first book till 2007. Okay,
so you started publishing. What was the name of your first book?
It's called Family of Strangers. I think like 2 or 3 of my books, I can't really give a synopsis because it spoils the book and then you won't read it.
Okay.
This is one of them. The only way I can, it's a boring synopsis, but the only thing I can say without giving it away, it's about a boy who unfortunately, he doesn't speak to the people, to the foster parents he's with. Mm-hmm. And they give up on him and and he's not like a bad boy. Like he doesn't do wrong things. They just don't want him because he doesn't respond to them. So he's constantly being returned back to the foster agency. So finally the guy who deals with him just decides to adopt him. And they everything is going perfect, perfect life. And then out of nowhere, his birth mother returns. And we find out why she left, the true story, why she left and why she's returned.
What's his name?
That I actually forget. I forget his name, actually. I don't remember his name, but yeah, it's actually, how do I say this? The storyline, he's not actually important.
Okay.
The reason why she left is the spoiler that I can't talk about.
Okay, well, yeah, I wouldn't talk about the spoiler, but you could say you could tell the story, like, join the journey of Casey as long as he's going through blah, 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 and the twists and the turns. That would be your storyline. I could see that very easily. But that was your first book. That is awesome, Family of Strangers. But I'm looking at the other titles that you have. You have, what, 13 books out already?
Something like that.
That is excellent. At such a young age, and I don't know how old you are, but
Yeah, I'm young. I'm young.
okay. I'm looking at this in 2007. That is excellent. Now, your latest book is the latest book, the four keys to success.
Yes.
That's your latest one, and that one just came out in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was inspired. I did a Sunday school class in church. And at the end, someone said, you should put that in the book. And at the time I said, I don't think I can, because I was demonstrating things. And in my mindset, it was best taught as opposed to read. And then finally I just said, well, maybe I can figure out how to put it in a book.
Okay, well, if it's best taught as well, I'm looking forward to that online class, right?
Yes, I did a webinar. No one showed up, but I'm going to do another one.
Well, let me give you a hint with the webinar. As long as you taped it, then you make that the online class, whether they showed up or not.
Right.
All right. And if you do it from the standpoint that you're the only one that's visible on camera because you don't want to see other people's faces in it,
right,
then you're good to go. See?
Okay.
All right. I like that. Well, let me, would you say that, because A Family of Strangers sounds like it was fiction. Do you write fiction, nonfiction?
Both. Family of Strangers is fiction. Well, I'll say this, as far as I know, it's fiction.
Okay.
If anyone should read it and say it's their story, coincidence.
Okay.
It was really, like I said, it was based on a fictional film. So,
okay.
As far as I'm concerned, it's fiction.
Right. And so that looks good. And I'm looking through some of these other titles that you do have before we jump into the four keys to success, is that a lot of them seem like they're more stories, the fiction type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything different that you add to them that you would not get in some other fictional writing?
That's a good question. I say I add a level of truth. And I say that because, like, a Family of Strangers, a lot of people believe that depending on what someone does depends on whether or not it's okay to not forgive them. And so in A Family of Strangers, what happened is something that most people would say, oh, it's okay for me not to forgive. And yet the mother does forgive in the case. And so I like to add a side that most people don't look at, because they're comfortable with what they're feeling, they're comfortable with their emotions, they're comfortable with the way they see things in life, and they don't want to even try to believe there might be another way of thinking, there might be another way, or my way may be wrong. So I add just a thought that, did you ever think about it this way? And so that's basically what I do when I write.
Okay, that's excellent, because we typically think our own way and it's my way or no way kind of thing. Do you add in a faith base as well?
Mostly. I think all of them do, yes.
Okay, and that's an extra. So are you under that religious fiction type genre or no?
No, because it's not mainly that. It's mostly, it's more of a storyline of just showing people that there's just a different way of seeing things, and that it's not necessarily wrong or right. It's just opening up your mind to think. Because lots of times in people's life, they say, I'm doing everything I know to do, but something's not right. And they don't stop to say, well, maybe what I'm doing, I need to think of something different, or maybe there's something I don't know that I need to do. But so many people just think, I know that this is the only right way. And it's like, but you've been doing this for 50 years. You haven't seen any results. So
right. I know when I teach the art of learning, the stages of learning, it starts with what we call unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it moves to conscious incompetence. Now I know that I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to learn until I know that I don't know. And then you move to conscious competence, meaning I can do it, but I'm going step by step through it. And the goal is to get to unconscious competence. I can do it without thinking about it.
Wow.
So that's what you're trying to do in your book. You're taking them from from the I'm unconsciously incompetent to wait a minute, because they say if I keep doing the same thing the same way and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity, and it doesn't work. Right? So I like the fact that you bring that twist in for others to then be able to benefit and change their mind. So let's go to the 4 keys to success. And I see you got you write under a different pen name, right?
For this book?
Uh-huh.
Yes, kind of, sort of.
Okay. All righty then. I'm not going to touch that unless you want to give us the storyline behind that.
You mean in the opening book when you open the page? You mean?
Well, it gives me the writer, and I cannot pronounce this name.
Starts with an R.
Yes.
Yes, that is the Hebrew word for Holy Spirit.
Okay, Rasha. Oh, Katie. Okay.
Yeah, Ruach HaKodesh.
Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, I got it. I'm loving the Hebrew because it has a whole lot more meaning to it that's there. And I love the fact that you mentioned in many instances Holy Spirit inspired. So that is important, because as long as God is guiding, you're good. All right, so let's go into, and some of the things that I pulled up from your book. You say that most people think that there are 5 factors for their life that make them unique, but the ones that they typically think about are not what is really going to get to the heart of the matter. Can you give us a little bit more of how you help people identify who they really are?
Technically, I can't do that. They have to do it for themselves. The main thing I tell people, the best way to identify yourself is to realize you can't identify yourself as a group. You have to identify yourself as an individual. Okay. So meaning you're not a man, because now you're in a group of men, which now means everything, wherever country you're living in, whatever they say all men are supposed to be, now that's all you can do. And you can't step out of that. If you say I am African American, or I'm Irish, or I'm an Aquarius, even in that they say every zodiac sign, these are your qualities and you can never do anything else other than that. So when you put yourself into groups, I call them buckets, because we know about the crab in a bucket mentality is when crabs are in a bucket, they pull each other down. So now when you're in this bucket of, let's just say women, when other women see you doing something that they've been told women are not supposed to do, instead of applauding you, what do? They drag you down. And you shouldn't be doing that. That's, yada, yada. Who do you think you are? You think you're better than me. And it's now because you've already told yourself, this is what I am allowed or not allowed to do because of my gender, my skin color, my zodiac sign, my religion, whatever the case may be. But if you identify yourself as an individual or as unique as your fingerprint, which is how God actually sees you, because when he hears us, he doesn't hear a Black person, he hears specifically you. He hears the voice that he gave you. He doesn't hear a female or male. He doesn't hear a Jew or a Christian. He doesn't hear someone from South Carolina or someone, we hear our accents, but all he hears is the voice that he gave you when he brought you here. And so you have to live as the unique individual you are. And unfortunately, there's many places, but the main 3 places where you get lost is your home, because your parents tell you this is all the things you can and can't do. I went to college with someone who was in a degree program because her parents told her, if you don't go in this degree program, we're not going to pay for your college. So she wasn't doing what she wanted to do, but because her parents said, this is what you, so the first place is you get lost is home. The second place is usually church, because certain churches, denominations have these things of what you can and can't do. And then the last place is school, because school tells you if you don't have these grades and, you don't have this point average, you're dumb, and, you're not good enough to go to college because your SAT scores aren't this. So now you've already identified yourself according to what everyone else says about you, as opposed to who God really created you to be. And so the only thing I tell people to do, because that's how I found out who I was. all the things I was doing because the church told me, parents told me, school told me, it wasn't succeeding. And the one thing I was doing throughout my life from the age of, I'll say 6 up until now, that never stopped was writing. That's the only thing that I used to cook. I wanted to be a culinary chef. Now, I don't know what happened. I don't like cooking. I don't want to cook. I like to throw stuff in a pot with some water and let it be. You know, like I'm not into the complications of cooking that I used to be. From acting to wanting to be a singer, wanting to be an artist, all those things I came and go. But the one thing that never stopped was writing. And the only reason why, like I said, I didn't think I was supposed to be a writer because the school system told me I wasn't smart enough, indirectly. So I say the one thing you did from childhood to now that you never stopped doing, but you stopped because someone or either directly or indirectly told you, because sometimes people directly tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you paint. You're painting the wrong way, or that's, you know, whatever the case may be. Whatever something when you stop doing because someone said that's not good, but you've still been doing it, you're just not getting paid to do it because you don't think to do it. That's who you are. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. And you have to find a way to do it, knowing that you were not created to please everyone. You know, so everyone is not going to like your art. Everyone is not going to like your music. Everyone is not going to like the houses you build. But that doesn't mean you're not supposed to be doing it. It just means those people were not sent here for you to give to, so to speak. And you have to be okay with that. And that's our problem, is we're not okay with someone saying, no, thank you. That's not. And we do it all the time. You know, I don't like that song. I don't like that artist. I don't like that film. But then when someone says it to us, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm horrible. It's like, no, it just means that they're not who you're sent to, you know, whatever the case may be. So that's the only thing I can tell people is fine. And there could be more than one thing, but start with one. Just start with one thing that you were doing since you were a child, but someone told you either directly or indirectly, women are not supposed to do that. Black people are not supposed to do that. Oh, you're an Aquarius, you ain't supposed to be like that. You know, whatever the case may be, whatever they said to make you think, oh, now I have to change who I am because they're not okay with me. Go back to who you originally are and don't be so care about what other people think.
I like that. That is interesting. And many of us get lost through the cycles of life, you know, because my initial thought when you said that, home, you lose yourself at home, you lose yourself at church, and you lose yourself in school. I'm like, well, where is there to be other than those 3 places?
Right.
But that's very interesting, because I also think with the cycles of life, you're a child, you grow up, say, up through high school. Then you're a young adult, you're in college, you're still single. Then you get married and you have children if you go that route. And then you get older and the empty nest and the retirement. Right. And in each stage, somebody wants to tell you how to act. So that's interesting. That means that I've got work to do when I get off this phone call. I like that. You're challenging me. But now you did say, in part of your description, you say, why is it important to have the mentality of a crab? But you talked about the crab mentality a little bit, but you didn't say why we should have it.
Well, there's a difference between a crab mentality and crab in a bucket mentality.
Okay.
Crabs, by nature, crabs don't belong in a bucket. Their
Right.
job is to clean the waters so that the non-scavengers don't die from whatever toxins are in or near the water. So, but when they're in a bucket, they can't do that. So that's why the crab in a bucket mentality is a mentality you're not supposed to have. Same thing as a lion in a zoo. A lion doesn't belong in a zoo, they belong in the wild. And so when a crab's mentality, actually, their job is anytime they can smell anything that's decaying, their job is to go get there quickly and consume of it quickly so that nothing else gets killed. So if a crab or any type of scavenger at all gets to a dead body big enough and they immediately can tell they can't consume it in the time period they have, they communicate to one another to draw together to finish this project of cleaning, so to speak. And so when you have the true crab mentality, mm-hmm. you know, your job is to, how do I say, get rid of the toxins. But if you see immediately, I can't do this alone, you don't, well, I'm gonna try it and get all the credit. Instead, you call people with you and say, hey, can you help me with this project? And now other people are getting their chance to help out in the project, so that it's a group credit. Everyone gets credit as opposed to this one person. And so the true crab mentality is to be free, because they don't have to stay near the Michigan lake. They can travel anywhere. And so, as we know, water is limitless. So because that's their job to be by waters, their life is limitless. And then, so the first step is to know to be limitless. Obviously, when you're in a bucket, you can't be limitless. And then the second thing is, instead of dragging each other down like in a bucket, you can be limitless, bringing people together to complete a project. And so when you put yourself, like I said, in these buckets of Aquarius, African-American, male, female, plus size, petite, you've now are saying, these are the only things I can do because of this bucket I'm in. And if I see someone else trying to do something that we were told we can't do, we're going to drag that person down and, talk about them, as opposed to saying, because we're individuals and we're all unique, we don't all have to do something just because we so happen to be the same gender or the same skin color or the same weight, height, whatever the case may be.
I like that. So are you saying, if I summarized it, that God has given us a unique purpose? Your purpose is to take care of one area, similar to the crab. You find a spot that there's a disease or there's an issue that God has uniquely designed you to be able to handle and to help. You do as much as you can there, but then you partner with the right people to assist you if that purpose is larger than what you have.
Correct.
I like that, because it sounds like there's no competition then. Right. And I'm not trying to pull anybody down with me, but I'm getting to my true purpose and my true calling of what God put me uniquely on this earth to do. Right. I like that. Yeah. I like that. All right, now let me move a little bit more in your book, because that's a good one. That's enough for people to go buy it, just to get to that. Well, those two things. I can't forget the one about what did I do from childhood, and then that crab mentality. I like that. You said the book will allow you to teach, or will teach you how to be successful in family, relationships, business, health, finances, and other fields you need to succeed, because you define success. Now, is it a thorough, or is it more of thought-provoking in these areas, or do you really give, when you talk about these 4 keys, and I'm not going to ask you what the keys are because I don't want to give that away, but are you doing a deep dive into all of these areas, or is it more of a higher level?
No, because I want everyone who reads, like, one of the things I mentioned is, right now, your goal, someone's goal might be to lose weight. Someone else's goal might be to start a business. Someone else's goal might be to fix a broken relationship with their, parent, child, whatever. Mm-hmm. So in that moment in time, what you need to do is different from what someone else needs to do. Okay. And the main purpose, like I said, if the success to you is finally apologizing or forgiving someone for something, then that step is first to see their uniqueness as to, okay, why did they do what they did? Because their upbringing will tell you exactly why they did that. But if your mindset is, well, they graduated from Harvard, they shouldn't be doing that, you've now just put them in a bucket of why they shouldn't have did what you did, because you assume because they have a Harvard degree, they're not supposed to be acting like such and such. But because you didn't realize they were an individual and that their degree had nothing to do with why they treated you that way, you're now trying to comprehend the problem according to the bucket you put them in, as opposed to trying to understand them as the individual they are. So this book is to help you whatever, and definitely don't multitask. Don't try to lose weight, start 7 businesses and then get this one together with your cousin, and then start with one thing at a time and say, this is the problem that I have in my life. And of course, the first thing is, if you don't admit it, you can't quit it. Well, I do, but it's not my fault, because, just this is the problem, period. And now I'm going to have to solve it. And the first step to solving it is to acknowledge that you're unique and that you don't have to be like everyone else, and that it's okay to seem weird, because weird, strange, abnormal, we misuse those words a lot just because we don't understand it. You know, if you start going to other countries and you're seeing different, oh, that's weird. Well, to them it's not, because that's how they were raised. I know a lot of countries think it's weird that a lot of, in America, we walk around the house in shoes. And their mindset, your shoes stay at the door. You're not, some of them, you're not even allowed to, they keep their shoes outside the house. And so to them, it's weird what we do, but because that's the way we were raised. And so we have to stop thinking certain things are weird and not being our true selves because someone told us, oh, that's weird, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. You know, you're not supposed to do that. And so I don't really go into specifics, because everyone needs to look at their own. And again, this is about individualism. You need to look in your own, stop looking at everybody else. One of the analogies I like to say is, if you are getting yourself ready, you got to go somewhere and you need to look in the mirror. You can't actually look in the mirror and fix yourself and look at someone else at the same time. You're either going to look at someone else and tell them, okay, you need to change that, that's dirty, or you're going to look at yourself and see what you need to fix. And so the first step is to look in the mirror. My mother calls it mirror ministry. And really be honest with yourself and figure out all the things that you need to deal with. Stay focused on you and not be so concerned about, well, this one thinks it's weird if I do it this way. And I always say, well, is that one paying the bills? Are they making sure everything is not late? Are they, you know, if they're about to, I always say, if someone's about to come and tow your car away, repossess it. And you say, well, my friend on Facebook doesn't think that it's right that's happening. Do you actually think that, oh, okay, we'll leave the car. They're, you know, they're not going to care. They're not, if you don't pay the bill, we're turning out the lights. Yeah, well, on Twitter, those lights are going out. And so if what they think doesn't stop those bad things from happening, then you have to get used to realizing I have to be unique. And if they have a problem with my uniqueness, let them go. Because if they're not helping your life get to the next level, why are you holding on to them?
So run your own race. I like that. And you have the baton in your hand that you can pass it to then somebody else if you need to. But if you don't stay in your lane, because I used to run track too, if you don't stay in your lane or you step over the line, you're disqualified. Exactly. You end up disqualifying yourself. So I like that analogy. The 1-800-ADMIT-IT. I always say that one. You know, there used to be this a billboard that would say 1-800-ADMIT-IT. You need to use that as one of your like slogans when you're, hey, this is one of the keys. So I like that. And I like mirror ministry too. Looking at you and focusing on you. You also talk about, so basically, let me ask you this. Then in your 4 steps to success, you give people a framework to use in order for them to get to where they need to be successful, their definition of successful.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, because I hate the fact that we all say going to college and getting a degree is success. Not for everyone.
No.
You know, and so you have to decide success is simply fulfilling a goal. Mm-hmm. So if your goal was to go to grocery store and buy some butter and you did that, you're successful. Now, no, you're not a billionaire. You didn't win an Oscar award, but you were successful because your goal was to go to the store and get butter. And just as long as you did that, well, the checkout lady wasn't nice to me, but that wasn't your goal. Your goal was just to get the butter. So just as long it rained and it doesn't matter. The goal was get the butter. You got the butter, you have success. So success is just fulfilling a goal. What is your goals in life? And it's not going to be, and it shouldn't be exactly the same as anyone else's.
Right.
So you have to understand all success is completing a goal.
I like that. I'm going to hit on one other area. I think you have a lot to offer. And I think I really want to encourage you to not stop what you're doing.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because in today's day and age, we do have a lot of the popularity mentality. Right. I want the follows, I want the likes. I'm faking what it looks like, but I'm not really doing the mirror ministry. I'm not understanding who I am and what my purpose on this earth is. And you have put all of that in, you've encapsulated it. Let me say it that way. You've encapsulated that in what you're bringing out in this particular book. And I think it's very important for people to pay attention to. You know, and so it doesn't look like it's a very long read, but at the same time, if it's impactful and it gives you the framework to change your thought process, your mental ability, then is to say, let me take what I have garnered from this and use it for the rest of my life. So it's going to be extremely impactful if they do the work. And that's what I like. Another one that you said, and I'm going to leave it at this one, is reading and the importance of reading here. Of course, you know, as an author, we like that, right? Everybody wants to read our own books. But you say that reading is our only good source of information, but also experience is our only source of education. So I want you to just kind of step into those two areas a little bit for me, to give them this overview kind of what your book is really going to do for them with that reading and then the experience.
Well, first of all, it'll help them to start truly, because the book really is about identifying yourself.
Okay.
And like I said, most people misidentify themselves, and you can't. If you think you're an eagle but you're a penguin, you're gonna die trying to fly. And so you really need to identify. And the only reason why I use birds as an example is because I live in an area where there are massive amounts of species of birds here. And I began to look at them and realize none of them are insecure. None of them think they're superior. None of them are trying to get surgery to change themselves because, you know, they don't look exactly the same as other birds. You know, there are some birds with wings, some without. There's some that fly, some that don't. Some that swim, some that some are vegans, some eat meat, and you know, but none of them are trying to change themselves because of the other birds that are different. They're okay exactly who they are, but they're also not criticizing the other birds. Oh, you're green? What's up with that? You know, we're cardinals. Why are you green? You know? And so my first step is to make people understand that it's okay to be you, and it's okay for other people to be them as well, and that we don't all have to be the same. And it's weird how we have accepted plants to be unique and different. We've accepted insects to be unique and different. We've accepted animals to be unique and different. But the one thing we haven't accepted is that humans are unique and different. We're still having a problem with that. And it's like, but why? And so the first step is identity. Identifying yourself, understanding you are unique. That's why God made sure everyone from Adam to now has a unique fingerprint. He never repeated a fingerprint. If you think about it, that's a lot of people for him to not repeat. And so that was significant for him telling us, you know, you're unique for a reason and you need to embrace that and accept it. So that was the first step of the book, is to understand that without your identity, you can't be successful. A lot of times people say, and I think it's in the book, oh, I prayed, but no one answered my prayer. I said, because lots of times God is sending an angel to answer your prayer, but if you're not who he sent, you know, if he said, bless this person, but you're now trying to be like someone else, that angel can't find you because you're now not who you are. And they're trying to help you, but they don't know who you are because you don't even know who you are. And so the first step to being success is identifying yourself. And the book helps you to see that it's okay to be you and no one else. And it is difficult sometimes. Mostly, I wouldn't say with friends, but with family, because sometimes we don't find it comfortable to be who we are because they're expecting us to be a certain way. They're expecting us, you know, that we still have this issue of, even though we know many people are successful without college, parents still are forcing their children to go to college. Or even that, we know many people who are successful and they're not doctors and lawyers. Parents still want their children to be doctors and lawyers. And so I'm hoping it'll encourage them to say, family, I love you, but I can't be this person anymore that you're forcing me to be. I'm going to be me. So that's mainly the focus of the book, is identity. And it teaches, the 4 keys teach you how to learn who you are. The reason why I said, because a lot of people say, you know, go to school for education, go to school for education, go to school for education. But serious, if you think about it, the reason why I say experience is the only source of education, because technically it is. Before you go to school, and I don't remember who it was. I was talking to someone and they were afraid that they weren't going to be able to have their child in school because they weren't completely potty trained. And I know when you start kindergarten, there's certain things a child has to be. But when you think about it, from, washing, dressing, brushing your teeth, potty training, tying your shoes, buckling your shirts, everything you know how to do before you go to school, you learn through experience.
Mhm.
There were no textbooks. There was no number 2 pencils. There were no tests. All someone did was say, this is how you tie your shoe. And you kept doing it until you got it right. This is how you ride a bike. This is how you roller skate. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And if anything you wanted to do, there was no one there to teach you. What did you do? You figured it out.
Mhm.
And so that's actually what education is. But you can't be educated without information.
Mhm.
And so, yes, school does give you information, but 1 + 1 will always equal 2, whether a teacher tells you or whether you go to the library and find out for yourself.
Mhm.
And so information is either fact or fiction, and it doesn't matter how you get it, it's still either fact or fiction. Whether a teacher told you Christopher Columbus discovered America or you read it in a book, it's still a lie. It doesn't matter how you get it. Information is either fact or fiction. And so the reason why I say reading is because, unfortunately, at home and in church and in schools, sometimes the information you're giving is not true. That's why the Bible says study yourself to be approved, because the Lord knew that, unfortunately, not all humans speak truth 24/7. In fact, no human speaks truth. And sometimes, because some people get angry, and I say, well, sometimes, you can't get angry with a 5-year-old talking about Santa Claus because they don't know they're lying. They think. And so some people are not lying on purpose. They think they're speaking truth. And so it's not about getting angry. It's about researching for yourself. Had Adam and Eve took the time to say, Holy Spirit, is this serpent telling us the truth? They would have known, but they just took what he said and they never. And so I say, read, because you'll never know how much you don't know until you start reading. I did not know how much I did not know until I started reading. And at first I was angry, but then I had to, Holy Spirit reminded me, because my dad didn't get a chance. He had to drop out of school to help out with his parents. So he would always take us to the library and encourage us to read, and he would encourage education. And the 3 of us were like, we ain't trying to go to the library. We did, like, the library, Dad? Can't we go to Six Flags or something? Like, the library? Really? And that's when the Holy Spirit said he was really trying to, you had the opportunity to start reading and start educating yourself, and you didn't take it. And so I had to really forgive those who misinformed me, but then forgive myself for not informing myself. And so I say, if you really want to be successful, the first step is reading, because there's so much information out there that can help you,
Mhm.
that if you just read it, you'd know. And a lot of people say, well, they should teach in school. Even if they taught every truth in school that you need, there's just not enough time to teach every person, because I always say, when you're in a school system, you're not teaching children. You're teaching an actor, a lawyer, a construction worker, a real estate agent, and they don't all need the same information. So it's impossible for the school to teach you everything you need to know, even church, because everyone doesn't need the same thing at the same time. So you really have to get your own information. It's kind of like the animals. All animals don't need the same food, so they each have to go after the food they need. And so information is our spiritual food. We all don't need the same information at the same time. So we all have to seek out our own food, whether it's spiritual food, mental food, whether it's health food, information about your health. It's up to each individual to search out. And so, yes, reading is important, and then experiencing. Last thing I would say is, don't just be so quick to think you want to do something. One of the things I say to students, instead of going to college right after high school, call up people and say, hey, I want to be a chef. Can I come to your restaurant, maybe shadow you, or can I do a Zoom call with you, or can I call you and ask you some questions? Figure it out, because every job, when you see someone working, it looks easy, but you never see the back.
Mhm.
You never see the back office. You never see the paperwork. You never see the annoying customers you got to deal with. You never see the annoying clients. You don't see that. You only see them looking all good, but you don't see the process. And so I would say experience. Ask if you can experience something, because sometimes you experience something, you go, never mind, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
And so that's that.
I like that. Let me ask you this. Staying more on the church side of it, there's so much wisdom in the Bible, and I also recognize that yes, we need to know it, but everybody doesn't get it at the same time.
Right.
Every time I go, because I taught youth ministry as well, but and I love the word, and I love how you say in many instances the Holy Spirit directed you to, and we should be so in tune that the frequency is one that we hear on a regular basis. But in looking at, any Bible story, there's something for us to learn there, but everybody doesn't go deep.
Right.
Or they might just get the surface for right now, and then they go deeper a little bit later, because you can never exhaust it.
Right.
Because as long as I've been studying, and there are a lot of people who have not read the Bible from beginning to end, that are up teaching, unfortunately. But every time you do read it, if you allow God to show it to you, he will show you something different of what you need at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to wonder why because there's some teaching churches, and I come out of a teaching church, and that's why we have a university associated with it. But then there are others that are just motivation, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And you say, well, they're getting, like they tell you, chew up the meat and spit out the bones.
Right.
I'm not that person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be hungry later if most of it was bones.
Yeah.
I want meat. But that's my personality. That's who God created me to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't be delving into all of these areas in the Bible to help people be able to apply it, or like I say, put feet to their faith. If I was the motivational side, I'd be writing your motivational speech, and it'd be top level. I might throw in a scripture, but I couldn't break it down. I couldn't give you the Greek or the Hebrew,
Right.
or any of that. And so we're all on different levels. And I really like the way you said that you have to go back to who you are, even in the church, to say, is this the right place for me to be? Not just because my parents brought me up in this church that I'm going to stay here forever.
Right.
There could be something different that God wants me to do. And so breaking out of that is very good. And I think that is something that people will want to then turn around and buy your book and look at it and say, okay, well, let me figure out where I am and what is the benefit for me. So I see the positives in that. So like I said, again, keep doing what you're doing. I think it definitely has a place in society today. Another thing that you mentioned too, that I recognized in this pandemic, this was an excellent opportunity for us to realign ourselves, reposition ourselves, reevaluate, all of the re's. It's like, okay, let's get back on point, reprioritize how you do what you do and who you're doing it with.
Right.
You mentioned that if it's I call them a one-sided relationship, cut it off.
Right.
And I've had the opportunity to do that. And I think your book gives you the opportunity as well to say, this is not productive. It's not moving toward my purpose in life. And so therefore I need to redirect, or I need to remove if I have to, so that I can be very effective in what God has put me on this earth to do. And that's very good. I don't think many people at your age are actually looking at that, but I do know that is important. But let me say this. Tell us how we can get in touch with you and the best methods to find the materials that you have available.
Everything is on authorkcbell.com. My books, you can contact me through there. I actually, someone off the subject, but I'm going to mention it. I have my college book, the ebook version. You can download it for free on my website. I wrote that book because when I was in college, I made way too many mistakes, but a lot of them I felt like I should not have had to make them, because there were people out there who should have, I personally believe if high school is supposed to prepare me for college, then why aren't they teaching you simple things? And I feel like because you can't be a teacher without college, teachers should be teaching their experience. And so I didn't want people coming behind me to make the same exact mistakes I made, being that they were preventable. And so I wrote the book to educate students, and that's why it's free, because not all students can pay for it. And even though on the actual hard copy is only $6, I still want to make sure that the mistakes are not made.
Okay.
The simple things. So authorcaseybell.com is the best way to contact me, see everything about my books specifically. And yeah, that's everything I offer is there. Well, right now I am still, when did I start? Maybe December or January, I started offering workshops, inviting me, but I still do that. Invite me digitally if you want to do a workshop on either, I'll go through the 4 keys of success, or even education, different things, because there's so many things they don't teach about education, as far as just different ideas. Like I said, something as simple as before your child even applies for college, knocking on the doors of the businesses and saying, can we come in and take a look? Because something like that could prevent a lot of mistakes. Most of the people who are successful that I know, they're successful, but their degree has nothing to do with it, because they got a degree in pharmacy, but they're selling kites on Etsy, and it's like, wait, you have a degree in that, but you're doing this? Because they realized that wasn't their passion. They did it because most people go to college and their goal is to get a job that makes money, or to get a job that 10 years when they go to their high school reunion, they can say, yo, yes, I did it, but they're not actually focusing on, my job is not just to make money, my job is to help people. And so most people are not focusing on the passion of how they can help people. They're focusing mostly on the glitz and the glamour, as opposed to helping. So
at authorcaseybell.com, I would be able to find out about all of the books that you have, as well as be able to get in touch with you for any digital workshops that you're able to do.
yes.
Okay. Who's your ideal customer?
It really depends. I'll say this, definitely non-readers, because my books are short, and they're simple to read. And I personally, humbly believe that it will interest you enough to realize you do enjoy reading. Because I know I had a thought process when I was a child, reading was boring. And when I started reading books that I was interested in, I realized, oh, it's not boring. I just wasn't reading the books that interest me. And so I keep them short. I keep them simple. I know a lot of authors, even now when I'm on Twitter, they'll say, oh, I managed to write, 10,000 words today. And it's like, I only have 4,000 more to go. And I'm like, well, why are you, like, if you're trying to tell a story, tell a story. Why are you concerned about how many words it is? Like, I don't know, because I've never read every reader, but I doubt a reader is reading a book going at the end, they didn't even fulfill the words I was looking for. I was looking for 60,000 word book, and this is only 50. I want a refund. They want the story, the adventure, or if it's nonfiction, the inspiration. They don't count the words. And I think the problem with authors is we're so, well, I won't say we, they're so concerned about the logistics of the book. Then what are you doing? Are you entertaining? Are you inspiring, educating? Are you encouraging? What are you doing with the book? That should be your focus, not how many letters and words are in it. So I would say mostly not, I won't say readers won't enjoy it, but definitely for those who think reading is not fun, you can get my books and realize reading is fun.
And you're giving out good information. So you have all the social medias out there too, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter?
Yes, which is, if you go to authorcaseybell.com and then you click on social media, it links to everything I'm on, and I'm going to mention it. I know no one, well, that's not true, because I do have people who follow me. I'm on MySpace as well, even though people think it's dead.
Okay.
I am on MySpace, so if you're watching this and you're on MySpace, you can find me on there. But yeah, the Twitter, the Facebook, and the Instagram, the main three I'm on, and a few others.
All right. Well, I will say this, definitely, if you're interested, because I know you're going to show this to others, and hopefully you will post it as well, as far as this interview, get in touch with author Casey Bell and find out what he does have available. All the multitude of books that he has out there, I'm sure there's at least one that is going to truly interest you as you start this journey with him. So authorcaseybell.com is the place to go to find everything out about Mr. Casey Bell. And I appreciate the opportunity to interview you and for you to interview me.
Thank you. And before we leave, can you just, your website for everyone?
Sure. My website is h2h truth.org. So that's h2htruth.org. Stands for Heart to Heart Truth Ministries, and where you'll find all my social media as well as the YouTube links and podcast links, and I've got it all out there available. But all the books, as well as the online courses and things of that sort, getting in touch with me is available there. h2htruth.org. And I'm Dr. Chonta Haynes, and it has been an awesome privilege to be here, Casey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me.
All right. Be blessed, and I know God is going to use you mightily as you continue to do what He's purposed for you in life.
Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have for you today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we sure hope to see you again. Thank you for watching.